Here to help you make 6 simple changes for a record year in fixed ops is Don Reed, founder and CEO of DealerPro Training Solutions. Please give him a warm welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That sounds a whole lot better. How's everything going so far? Huh? Good convention? Like the city? Like the seafood? Huh? Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. This will be my third workshop out of the series so far, and it's been very lively so far. One of the leaders said, well, Don, you said there's 6 simple changes. I'm not so sure about that word simple. I say, well, it really is simple, but I didn't say it was easy. There is a difference. So yeah, it may be simple, but it's going to take some major commitment from all of you in this room if you want to make anything change in 2015. So I'm going to start off with one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite speakers, Mr. Zig Ziglar, who says, you have the perfect processes in place to get you exactly what you got last year. Now, what's he telling us? Yeah. If you continue to do what you've always done, you're going to continue to get what you've always got. If we expect to do something, get some different results in 2015, then we have to get prepared to embrace that tacky little word called change, right? And I'm going to be talking to you about some change as we go through the presentation. We know to be successful that we have to realize that success is a journey. It's not just some place that we arrive and we finish. It's ongoing. Earl Nightingale says that the definition of success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. And for the purpose of this workshop, I'm going to assume that all of you in here do in fact have goals for 2015. But we know that if we want to achieve our goals and we are willing to do some things that are different, I want you to understand that successful people do what unsuccessful people simply won't do. And what that means is that success is a choice. All of you in this room today are right where you are in your professional lives, your personal lives, based upon all the decisions that you made, right? Nobody made them for you. So we need to realize that we are the ones that are going to have to be the decision makers going forward in 2015 if we want to make something happen in our dealerships. To do so, we have to deal with these 2 words, comfort zone. Everyone in here has one. I have one. All of your employees have one. They all have comfort zones. And what we've got to realize is that as dealers and managers, we have to become the comfort zone movers. Which means we have to be the ones who lead and manage our employees to come out of the comfort zone that they're in an effort to do something different. Let me give you an example. Why don't you go back to your dealership, maybe get all you dealers, get all your managers together and say, hey, I went to the convention in San Francisco. I listened to this lunatic from Ohio named Reed, came up with this really cool new pay plan. And I just want to share with you a new pay plan. Uh-oh. What's going on now? What do you think? Positive or negative? As soon as you say new anything, that's a negative. That doesn't sound like a good thing to me. Something bad is about to happen, right? So, comfort zone. We have to be the comfort zone movers. All right, with that being said, where are we today in the service side of our business? Well, research shows that, unfortunately, service providers, we know that 81% of all our customer pay labor comes from a phone call. So yes, we have Twitter, we have internet, we have texting, we've got all of this technology today, with iPads and iPhones and you name it. But the fact of the matter is that 80% of our business starts with a phone call. So we have to ensure that all of our employees who are dealing with our service customers over the phone do in fact know how to do so professionally and have the ability to provide all of our customers the highest level of service that we possibly can. But this is what's going on. That 86% of these advisors try to diagnose a customer's concern over the phone. None of you in this room have service advisors who can accurately and properly diagnose a mechanical concern over the phone. I hope you would agree with that. Just like your doctor can't diagnose why your back is giving you a bad time over the phone. What does the doctor want to do? He wants you to come in, he wants to do a complete and thorough examination and then give you a diagnosis. Well, that's what we do. But yeah, all of us in this room have advisors that right now as I'm standing here are trying to diagnose a customer's concern over the phone. 81% of them quote mechanical repair prices before they even know what's wrong. So if we can't diagnose over the phone, how can we possibly give an accurate quote? Does that make any sense? No. So what do? They guess. And unfortunately, they guess and they're wrong probably more often than they're right. This is not conducive to a high CSI. This is not conducive to increasing sales. This is not conducive to building owner retention. All right. We also know that 95% of the advisors are going to quote a mechanical repair price that's higher than what the aftermarket quotes. What good can possibly come out of that process? The aftermarket tells them it's the brakes start at $79.95 and your new car advisor says our brake specialist start at $289. Well, where's the customer going? But here's the most striking and disturbing statistic on the slide, folks, and that is that 57% of all service advisors surveyed never mention, never ask, never suggest, never offer an appointment. Now, how does this make sense to anybody in here? Do you not want more customers to come to your dealership? I mean, average new car dealer in America is spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 per retail unit to go sell a car to a stranger. Wouldn't it make sense to have a proper phone process where we can get customers to come in to our service department? At DealerPro, we also shop service advisors around the country that we work with, and we find this number is a little bit on the light side. We're seeing more like 7 out of 10 phone calls were never offered an appointment. Okay? So what's going on right now is I'm standing right here in front of you. We got advisors who are quoting prices, trying to diagnose over the phone, and then they pause. They don't offer an appointment. They don't ask for an appointment. They don't try to sell an appointment. And the next thing here is click, and the customer goes shopping other places. And I'm going to show you, prove to you who those other places are. It's called the aftermarket because they do just the opposite. I mean, it's just next to impossible to call an aftermarket service provider and not be offering an appointment. Don't take my word for it. Call Midas. Don't take my word for it. Call Jiffy Lube. Just call them. And in the first sentence out of that conversation, you're normally going to be offered an appointment. So we're going to be talking about these aftermarket facilities a lot. But before we get into that, let's look at what's going on in our industry. And we call them the service traffic drivers. What drives more customers into our dealership? Or conversely, what drives more customers away from our dealership? We know that oil change and fluid intervals are getting longer. Okay? Back in 2001, 15 years ago, you folks remember those 3,000-mile oil changes? Customers used to come in every 3 to 5 months. Gone. And now in 2008 to 2010, we bumped it up from 5 to 7,000 miles. So now we're seeing our customers 5 to 8 months. And here we are today, and we're looking at 7,500 to 10,000 mile intervals, and we're going to see those customers once every 8 to 10 months. So you see the oil change intervals have doubled. So that means our customers are coming into our dealership fewer and fewer per year. Number of customer service visits per year is running, this includes not only oil changes, but of course about 2.6 visits per year, and that's declining. And we find that 70% of advisors do not present a properly prepared maintenance menu to a customer. Now, show of hands, how many of you in here at your dealership have an F&I department? Yeah, I'm guessing everybody, right? Now, how many of you who have an F&I department expect your F&I producers to present some options to your customer? Usually in the form of a menu of some kind? Yes? Okay, well, for those of you who expect your F&I producers to present some options to your customers in some form of a menu, what percentage of your customers would you expect them to do that with? How many? Oh, all of them. Oh, there's a novel thought. Let's give everybody an opportunity to say yes. Is that a good thing? How are we going to get a yes if we don't ask? Obviously, we get a no because we never gave anyone the opportunity to say yes. Doesn't matter whether it's an extended service contract or whether it's leasing versus financing or whatever it might be. So I always find that dealers, and I was one for 27 years, I find that dealers have all the right processes in place when it comes to the variable side of the business. I just had one across the street in my last workshop. I said, well, heck, Don, I mean, if my finance producers aren't doing 100% menu presentations to my customers, they don't work for me. I say, wow, that's called accountability. That's strong. Well, then why don't you have that process in the service drive? It is no different. We don't present menus to customers when we feel like it. We don't present menus to customers when we think we have ample time. We don't present menus to customers when we have nothing better to do. We present menus to customers, as this gentleman said, all the time. Every day, every customer, every visit. And we like to say that's what we call training the customer, because this is how we're going to train our customers so we can retain our customers. Kind of a catchy, we train to retain. So we want to keep them coming back. AAA survey shows that 62% of all the vehicles on the American highways are being driven in severe driving conditions. Conversely, the motorists, only 6% of the motorists surveyed felt that they were driving in severe conditions. Do all you know that in your owner's manuals, that tells you there's two types of driving conditions. There's normal and there's severe. Yes? Somebody's heard of this? We talk to advisors, have no clue what we're talking about. Never heard of it. Let me ask you this. How many of your customers last month that you sold a car to, do you think drove that new vehicle home, parked it in the driveway, got their owner's manual and that nice leather vinyl binder out of the glove box, took it inside the kitchen table and said, hello, honey, come over here, let's have a seat, and let's be sure and review our maintenance schedule for the next 5 years so we got it right. That's going on all the time, right? I mean, when I was a dealer, I used to love to go to the auction. Man, I grew up in an auction, so I love going to the auction. All of you out there, you've either traded for that car or you bought that car at the sale, and you get it back, and you open that glove box, and there sit all those original owner's papers, right? And there sits those owner's men. Not a fingerprint to be seen anywhere. Never been out of that glove box, am I right? I mean, it's pristine. We have to advise. That's why we have that title underneath our name. We have to advise, just like my dentist does, just like my doctor does. We have to advise because we got to train our customers. In training our customers on proper maintenance, we know that we have fewer repairs as dependability improves. Quality of our vehicles is getting better, best it's ever been. Dependability is the best that it's ever been. So we're getting fewer mechanical repairs. And for you service directors and service managers that are in here, I'm sure you'll agree with me that the future for growth in your service department and the volume of repairs, the volume of sales in your service department are coming from maintenance and light repair, not heavy mechanical. Am I right? I mean, when I was a service manager, it was 75-80% heavy mechanical. We rebuilt everything in those days. We don't rebuild anything. I used to rebuild starters. Wow, that's really good. Things like points and condensers, you had to replace them. So we got fewer and fewer mechanical. We got more and more maintenance. So we got to go to where the action is. In 2007, the average number of mechanical repairs a year were at 2.1. Now it's down to about 1.3. Well, that's a drop of about 40% in just 7 years. So as professional managers and dealers who want to provide our customers the highest level of service on each and every visit, we've got to be able to deal with this. And we've got to do the things that are necessary to go out here and do what I call put our customers first. So I told you I was going to share with you 6 simple steps. Number 1, take your incoming phone calls away from your service advisors. Do not allow a service advisor to schedule an appointment. A service advisor is, by and large, the worst person that you have in your store for setting an appointment. Hire appointment coordinators. Maybe you have a BDC. But you need someone properly trained to take these incoming service calls and sell appointments. We find out that when we go looking at a appointment schedule with an advisor, we see 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, schedule's blank. So I asked an advisor, well, why is it you don't schedule any appointments after 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Oh, he said, Don, we don't ever do that. We may not be able to get the work done. I said, well, what's wrong with that? Well, if we don't get the work done that day, then it's a carryover. Well, what's wrong with that? Carryovers are a great thing. I mean, if you got 20 technicians, you ought to have 20 carryovers a day. If you got 50 carryovers a day, you got chaos on your hands. They don't, but here you go, a simple little drill when you go back to your store. Anybody ever walk through your service department at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? And you see technicians standing around wiping down tools and toolboxes, there's not a car to be seen. All lifts are empty. Anybody ever experienced that phenomenon? That's called low shop productivity. Why do we have technicians standing around at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? We're open until 5 or open until 5:30, whatever it might be. So why are they not working on vehicles at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Because your advisors are not setting any appointments for that time of the day. And or they're not making any upsells on the customers that are coming in. So what are the benefits to a dealer in hiring an appointment coordinator? Well, number 1, you train them. You will sell an entire day. They don't know any different. They've never done it any other way, so they're going to sell the entire day. And yes, your service advisors will hate them because they're going to have to work hard. We're going to stay busy the entire day, just not part of the day. Number 2, schedule appointments 15 minutes apart per advisor. Number 3, we're going to schedule 12 to 15 appointments per advisor per day, which simply means we want your advisors working with 12 to 15 customers, not counting internal ROs. I'm talking about customer pay and warranty. We want them dealing with 12 to 15 customers per day. What are the benefits, additional benefits to the dealer? Your appointment coordinators can plant the seed in the mind of your customer for maintenance requirements based upon time and mileage, because they can review the vehicle history on the computer while they're talking to the customer on the phone. And they can plant that seed. By the way, based upon the mileage you have on your vehicle, you're due for these specific services. Customer appointment reminder calls, so we can now be calling our customers to remind them of their upcoming appointment. Hairdressers do that. My dentist does that. Doctors do that. Why aren't we doing that? Let's remind our customers that they need to be coming in. And of course, all of us in here have no-shows. Every dealership has no-shows, so we want to make sure that we have a proper phone process in place where we can call these no-shows. And if you think your advisors are doing a good job of that, you're probably overly optimistic. All right? These people can make those calls for you. And of course, we can reduce the number of calls that are being put on hold and help reduce, if not eliminate, drop calls. And lastly, we're going to increase shop productivity. So how is it that an appointment coordinator sitting in a room nowhere near a service department is going to have a positive impact on my shop productivity? Because they're going to fill it full of work. And I'm sure you managers in this room would agree with me that when you give more customer pay work to your technicians, they will turn more hours. All of you in this room have technicians that can perform at a higher level. All of you have technicians that can perform at a higher level. You just got to get them to work. But they can't perform at a higher level if at 4 o'clock in the afternoon there's no other ROs to dispatch. Make sense? Okay? So you will increase shop productivity, which is, you'll find out is one of my favorite subjects here. What are the benefits to the advisors? Well, the advisor can now have a pre-write RO already made up, printed up for them before the customer even shows up. Printed up for them any of those maintenance services that they presented to that customer. Number two, they got more time at the customer reception to do a proper walk around and to present a proper menu presentation. As my friend over here says, we're going to do it 100% of the time. Well, we got to have the time 100% of the time to spend 15 minutes per customer so that we can do a proper walk around and present that menu. They got more time to communicate with their customers throughout the day, as we expect all of our advisors to do, to keep the customers informed on the status of their vehicle. More time for the active delivery and setting their next appointment. If you're not familiar with the term active delivery, what that means is you must bring the vehicle to the customer, usually in the reception area where they drop the car off in the first place, where the advisor is going to go to that vehicle with that customer, with that repair order, and review the 3 C's on every line item that's on that RO, and explain the total bill with the customer at the car. And when we're finished with that presentation, we're going to set their next appointment. More time for presenting the technician service requests, which are coming from the multi-point inspections. Simple change number 2. I call it compensate to motivate. And we could have 10 dealers stand up here in this room, and I could get 10 different pay plans for any position in the dealership. We all have our opinions, you know, when it comes to pay plans. So I want to talk to you about trying to motivate more of your people that sometimes we tend to not pay a whole lot of attention to. For example, hourly paid techs. I suspect most of you in here have some hourly paid technicians. They may be internal techs. They may be quick lube techs. They may be regular techs in the main shop. So why don't we pay them an incentive on hours produced? Most of your hourly paid technicians are probably producing for you somewhere between 25 and 30 hours a week on 40 hours with the clock time. All right? They run about 60, 65% productive. So if that's what I have, and let's say this sample I have here, I'm paying this hourly tech $12 an hour. And this is just an example. You go back to your store, insert your numbers, make it whatever you want. So he's producing about 26, 28 hours a week. I'm going to sit him down and I'm going to say, hey, you get to 30 hours, I'm going to give you a 50 cent an hour raise on all the hours that you got paid for that week. 40 hours, which sounds to me like $20. If you get to 35 hours, I'm going to give you $1. And now you got a $40 pay raise for those 40 hours that you worked this week. All right? And make those numbers whatever you, I think it's a little light myself. I wouldn't start at 50 cents. I'd start at least $1. But anyway, that's just an example for you. So what does this do for a dealer? Well, here's what a pay calculator looks like. You got this technician making $12 an hour. He's at 25% or 25 hours produced, which is 63% productivity, at a $75 effective labor rate, which is a little low. National average right now is about 85. So he's producing for you $1,395 in gross profit, and he's giving you a 74% profit margin. However, when he goes to 30 hours a week and picks up an additional 5 hours, he's now producing $1,750 in gross and giving you a 77.8% margin. All the way down to 40 hours, and you can see his gross profit margin jumps to 82%. So what you notice is that every time he gets a pay raise, dealer's margin goes up. I like that math. Huh? Why does it go up? Because in the first level, you're only paying 50 cents for $75 worth of labor sales. You're already paying him his hourly wage. You with me? So your only cost is the extra 50 cents or the extra $1 or the extra $2. Sounds like pretty good math to me. So the higher his productivity, the higher your profit margin is, Mr. Dealer. I would venture to guess that anybody in this room would pay an extra $1.50 to get an 82% margin on at $75 an hour, picking up an additional 15 hours. 15 hours, $75 an hour, and I paid $1 an hour. I'm pretty happy with that math. All right, so this person, not only can you make him a better employee, not only can you maybe even encourage them to start thinking towards flat rate as he becomes more experienced, but the dealer, it's a win-win situation. There's no way it's going to cost you anything because this technician is productive. He's paying his way all the way. Let's talk about flat rate techs. And you may say, well, Don, you mean flat rate, I mean, that's been around for decades. There's nothing new about flat rate, and you would be absolutely correct. But I'm saying let's take the flat rate tech and give them a bigger carrot. Why don't we do the same thing with them? And let's say he's consistently performing below 45 hours. He's a 40, 42 hour a week guy. And I say, hey, you get to 45 hours, I'm going to give you an extra 50 cents. Again, it can be $1, $2, whatever you want. All the way up to 60 hours, and I'm going to give you $2. So now he has a bigger incentive to produce more flat rate hours. However, the pay plan calculator looks a little bit different because we are paying him flat rate. That means we're paying him his full rate on every hour sold. So in this instance, the margin goes down. So your margin goes from 73 to 70 because you're not just, your cost of sale is not just the 50 cents. But I don't know about you folks. Guy wants to produce 60 hours for me. I'm pretty happy with a 70% margin on that. I like that math. So I do understand, however, money does not motivate everyone. No doubt about that. But it will motivate some, probably more than you might think. Now, at DealerPro, we like to have shop meetings with technicians. And when we meet with technicians, love meeting with technicians because they're very honest people. They're straightforward. They just tell you like it is. Am I right? We probably got some ex-techs in here. I mean, you ask a technician a question, you will get an answer. Here's my favorite question. Mr. Technician, if there's one thing I could do for you as your trainer to make your job more productive and more enjoyable, what would that be? And some of you out there are looking at me like, oh man, I don't want to ask that. Ask that to a tech? Are you kidding me? Anyway, if there's one thing I could do for you to make your job more productive and more enjoyable, what would they be? And they say, well, you got to work with old George out front because he can't sell anything. I can find the work, he can't sell it. Anybody out there ever heard that? That is the number one response that we hear from technicians all across the U.S., Canada, doesn't matter where you go. And oftentimes it's not that George can't sell it, it's that George won't sell it. Big difference. Won't means don't even make the effort. Can't means don't know how. So, believe me, if you hold a shop meeting in your store, your technicians will agree with you. They have the ability to turn more hours. They just got to find somebody to sell the work, right? What's the number one reason why techs don't want to do an inspection process? It's a waste of my time, Don, to inspect these cars. Why do you say that? I can inspect them. I can find the work. George can't sell it. So, your technicians will answer the call if you give them the opportunity. So when it comes to compensating the motivated advisors, the first thing I would suggest is you do this exercise when you get back to your dealership. I want you to look and say, you make the calculation, how many dollars in repair order sales did I produce last year? And this is a great time to do it because you got your December statement. All right? So you need your customer pay, warranty, and internal labor and parts. If your advisors do not process internals because somebody else is, then don't include internals. But in most cases, advisors are working with internals. Okay? So in my example right here, I got about $1.3 million in labor and about $1.1 million in parts. $2.4 million was my total repair order sales last year. The second calculation is all the people that was employed here last year with the title of service advisor, how much did we pay them? Even the person who's no longer with us, whatever. In other words, everyone who worked in that position, what were they paid? And in my example, they were paid about $125,000. You divide the $125,000 by the $2.4 million, and you find that you paid wages of about 5% of your repair order sales, parts and labor. Or, if you like to talk in terms of gross, you paid out about 10% of gross. 5% of sales usually equates to about 10% of gross. All right? So that's what you're paying. So if you want to make a simple pay plan for an advisor, I'm just going to pay you 5% of everything you put on a repair order. The benefit of that is that an advisor on any given day of the month can calculate how much money they've made for the month, and they could even forecast how much money they're going to make at the end of the month. If you don't like paying on sales, you want to pay on gross, same thing happens, assuming that you're providing the advisors with daily performance reports where they can see what their sales are and their gross. Okay? So this is how I like to write advisor pay plans. Now once you say it's going to be 5% of gross, then you can, or 5% of sales, then you can take that number and decide how much of that's going to be a salary, how much of that is going to be commission, how much of that's going to be bonuses for CSI or shop productivity or whatever it might be. All right? But you should not be paying more than 5% of sales or 10% of gross. Dealer across the street said, well, I'm paying out 12% of gross. I said, you're a little strong. So we've got to come up with a way as to how we can bridge the gap and get that corrected. But here's some people that we don't pay much attention to. We don't hear them talked about much, is those parts counter people. Can anybody give me the primary mission of a parts department? Huh? That's right. He says feed the techs. The primary mission of a parts department is to support the technicians. Who is your number one customer in the parts department? It's the technicians, right? It's your service department. I highly doubt it's that wholesale customer where you're making a whopping 12 to 14% margin on. Versus the technician, they'll give you a 45% margin. No disrespect to parts manager. I was one for a very short period of time. But here's something I don't get. You go out, you buy a truck, you hire an employee, you buy license plates, you fill the tank full of gas, you pay for the insurance, you pay this person to put the parts in the truck, you then pay the guy to get in the truck and go drive some distance to arrive at a destination to unload the truck, to sell a part and deliver a part to somebody who you're probably competing against anyway, and you're going to hold a 12 to 14% margin, but you won't walk 40 feet to deliver a part to a technician. Does this make any sense? So I had a parts manager, had 4 delivery trucks. He was so proud of the fact he's doing 150 a month in wholesale parts sales. I said, you drive 50 miles in 4 different trucks to go deliver parts, and you're holding a 12% margin, but you don't deliver parts to your technicians. Could you please explain to me how that makes any sense? If you want to see what kind of money that is, you might want to do a simple little drill, do a little time study where you're standing back there at your parts counter, that back counter, and you just write down the technician's name and what time he comes to that counter to request those parts, and then you record what time it is when he gets them and actually leaves. And you calculate that out over a period of day, and you see how many hours at whatever your effective labor rate it's costing you for technicians to stand at that counter waiting on those parts. So the primary mission of a parts department is to support the techs. Why don't we have some fun with them? Why don't we give them a bonus? We can give them a bonus based on parts and service gross profit on all repair orders. Customer pay, warranty, and internal. All repair orders. Bonus them. What about if we gave them a bonus based on shop productivity? Wow, there's a creative pay plan. My shop productivity is currently at 85%. Hey, Mr. Parts Guy, when we get to 90, I'm going to give you a $250 bonus. We get to 95, I'm going to give you a $500 bonus. When we get 100, I'm going to give you $750. Whatever the number might be that's based upon the size of your store. Well, why don't you get these parts counter people focused on supporting the best customer they have? Shop productivity is a good way. I don't think you can get too many techs going to complain about that. Appointment coordinators, how can we motivate them? Well, we're going to pay them some sort of an hourly wage, most likely, but we can also pay them based upon the number of appointments that they set each and every day. We're going to give them goals, and we can pay them based upon the percentage of sales for the day. We can pay them based upon their menu sales, assuming that we allow them to do so. Any of my friends in here from the United Kingdom? Here? What dealerships? Toyota, okay. Have you heard of a group over there called Virtue Motors? Yeah. Anybody here from Virtue? Hi there, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm coming back over in May. The Those people over there do a magnificent job of doing exactly this. They have a centralized, am I right? Centralized call center where you have all these incoming calls that come in for all their dealerships. You're up to now, what, 114 franchises, all going one place. And they got these appointment coordinators do just that. They sell the appointments. They make recommendations on additional sales based on time and mileage. And would you agree with me, sir? It is a rocking process, and it's doing really, really well. Very well. So highly encourage it. This works. Compensate and motivate department managers. I like to compensate department managers based upon the variable selling gross profit, which is simply the department gross profit less controllable expenses that they're responsible for controlling. They don't have any control over fixed expenses. Just the ones that they're responsible for controlling. You pay them a percentage, of that number. You can bonus them again on CSI and productivity. Really like to see managers getting bonus based on productivity, because most of you in here are running less than 120% shop productivity, which is NADA benchmark. Most of you are probably in the 80-90% range. All right, so we got to move towards 120%. Let's bonus our manager based on that goal. But to begin with, when we write pay plans, the first thing that you need to do is you need to decide, what is this position worth to me as a dealer? How much am I willing to pay? General manager, general sales manager, doesn't matter what it is. What's that position worth for a top performer? Not an average Joe, but for a top performing manager, what am I willing to pay? That's where you start. So maybe you can say you build the pay plan backwards. But you start at what are you willing to pay for a top performer? And once you make that decision, then you can utilize what I call the 60-40 rule to write a pay plan. And the 60-40 rule is about 40% of that worth number is going to be base compensation in the form of salary. 60% is going to come from performance and or bonuses, whether it's shop productivity, whether it's variable gross, whatever it might be. 60-40 pay plan. So we got a heavier focus on performance than we have on base compensation. Now, average service managers that are just doing an average job, who are currently being paid more heavily in salary than in performance, and they're not going to like this pay plan. It's way out of their comfort zone. Not going to like this at all. A top performer, a manager who really gets it, who really does want to excel and perform, going to be all over this pay plan, because he's going to give himself a pay raise. And the only person he has to talk to get a pay raise is that face that he sees in the mirror, or she sees in the face every morning. That's the person who's going to control my pay raise, not my dealer. Kind of like building a fire, isn't it? You want to get more heat, got to put on more wood. So that's the nice thing about having a 60-40 pay plan. And you have to prepare a profit pro forma. A pay plan pro forma. What does that mean? That means you need to sit down and say, based on where I'm performing right now, on my 60-40 pay plan, what will my manager earn? And you can calculate it to the dollar. You can take it right off your financial statement. Now, what happens if he hits my goal? What happens if he becomes a top performer? How much is he going to make? Y'all getting the picture? That's what the pro forma is for. Because here's what happens in far too many stores. I'm a dealer. I was one for 27 years. I come back from my 20 group, and I sit down and I get a clean sheet of paper. I say, I'm going to write a new pay plan here for my manager. Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm going to write a new pay plan, for my manager. And I write the pay plan. Manager comes in and says, I'm in, boss. Looks great. And all of a sudden, he turns into a top performer. And oh my goodness, he's making more money than he's ever made. And oh my goodness, he is a really happy guy. And then we have to have the meeting. What's the meeting? I get to call him into my office and say, you know what, you've done a really great job. You've achieved our goals. You're making more money than you've ever made since you've been in the car business. I just can't afford to pay you this much money anymore. Wham! You just punched him in the gut, and hello, he's going to go to work for your competitor down the street and become a top performer for them. Anybody ever seen this phenomenon happen in an automobile dealership? As in most everybody in this room. You see, we don't do the pro forma. We don't do the math to see how much are they going to earn if they really do what I want them to do. don't have the meeting. Not conducive to long-term success. Do the pro forma. Change number 3, you have to train your service team for growth. Particularly if you are launching yourselves a quick lube operation, you've got to train your people for growth. What's going to happen when all this traffic shows up? Had a dealer that I've known for a long time in the Midwest, built this state-of-the-art, beautiful state-of-the-art quick lube facility, launched a massive marketing campaign in newspaper, radio, television. I mean, he did it up right. This man was processing 800 customer pay repair orders the day he opened that shop up, and within 30 days he was doing 1,400. Absolute, utter chaos. He went from being a very successful and profitable dealer to writing more red ink than I even want to share with you. And he called me and says, Don, I got to stop the bleeding. I said, what in the world did you do? Your traffic count has almost doubled. He said, I launched a quick lube program. Sales per RO went down. Hours per RO went down. Shop productivity went down. Effective labor rate went down. Parts margin went down. Everything was going down except one thing, traffic. The problem was he wasn't trained to accommodate the traffic. Do you think you might need some more techs? Do you think you might need some more service advisors? Do you think maybe your advisors need to have more time with your customers? You can't have a quick lube advisor working with 45 customers a day or more. I mean, that just turns into chaos. Huh? They don't have any time to do anything, so you got to train them for growth. So with that being said, what is the primary mission of a service department? I gave you the parts. Well, the primary mission of the service department is to ensure that every customer leaves our dealership driving a safe and reliable vehicle. Would you agree with that, sir? You, sir, does that make sense? We need to ensure that every single customer, not just the ones we like, every single customer leaves our dealership driving a safe and reliable vehicle. Is there anybody in this room that would argue with the fact that we want to make sure that they have a safe and reliable vehicle? Probably not. But more importantly, do all of your employees know this? That our primary mission is to ensure that every single customer leaves our dealership driving a safe and reliable vehicle. How do we do this? Well, number one, we have to present 100% maintenance menus to every single customer, advising them of the manufacturer's requirements and the manufacturer's recommendations based upon time and mileage, and any other recommendations that we want to give based upon our local driving conditions. Would you agree that driving conditions in Bangor, Maine are a little bit different than they are in Mesa, Arizona? Do you think here, if you drive in the hills of San Francisco every day, you might go through brakes a little faster than you do if you're driving across the desert? Huh? So we got to make recommendations and advise. Number two, we got to have what I refer to as vehicle health checks, or the multi-point inspection. We have to inspect every single vehicle. That's a technician's responsibility. So we say the advisors are responsible for the menus, the techs are responsible for the multi-point inspections. And thirdly, 100% of our customers must be trained so that we can retain them in coming back. Now here's an exercise I suggest you do when you get back to your store. All right, great time to do it. Get your December financial statement from 2014 and get your December financial statement from 2013. I want you to go to your service department section where you have your sales and gross profit numbers, and on there you will find your year-to-date customer pay RO count. All right? And if you have Quick Lube broken out on there, I want you to add that in as well. So I want you to compare your customer pay RO count from 2013 to 2014. If those two numbers are almost the same, do we have owner retention? We have owner replacement. If the number for 2014 is up 10% or more than 2013, write that down, it should be no less than 10%. We have owner retention. We're retaining customers and adding new ones. But if you're just mirroring one year after the next, RO count's about the same every single month, which frankly is what we see in most stores. And for some reason we have this misconception, and that's a good thing. I'm doing the same as I was doing last year. No! You're replacing customers with your vehicle sales at the same rate you're losing them out of your service department. That's called owner replacement. We don't want owner replacement. We want owner retention, right? If I did $1,000 a month last year, I want to do $1,200 a month this year. And next year I want to do $140 a month, and so on and so forth. So we want to make sure that we're training these customers to come back, for this retention. Who's your number one competitor? Who is our number one competitor in service sales? It's those guys, the aftermarket. There are over 150,000 aftermarket locations around the country. There are only about 17,235 new car dealers, I think, somewhere in that range. 150,000 to 17,000. So I ask you, who's the most convenient for your customer? The aftermarket, right? Look at all the locations they have. If you go to my office in Columbus, Ohio, there's an intersection about 5 minutes from my office. It's got 4 aftermarket service facilities and 1 intersection. 4, sitting right there. So they got us beat bad when it comes to convenience. So as new car dealers, we got to start recapturing some of this market, because right now we have the lowest penetration in market share of any time in the 100-year-old plus history of the automobile industry. It's about 80-20. So they're picking up 80% of the market share, and we're struggling to hold on to 20. And what's bad about that is then continuous decline. This year was worse than last year. Last year set a record. This year just beat it. We've got to stop this. And all of us in this room have the ability to make that happen. And let's understand, these were all our customers to begin with. Were they not? We sold the new cars. We sold the used cars. This was a captive customer initially. Why are we losing them? And some of you may think it's price, and I'm here to assure you that price has got nothing to do with it whatsoever. Because when you look at all the consumer surveys, thank you, price doesn't even score in the top 4. So how do we compete with the aftermarket and win? We got to train our service team to do what the aftermarket does. We got to avoid diagnosing over the phone. We got to stop quoting mechanical repair prices over the phone. We must offer a free inspection. No, we don't want to charge the customer for the inspection. It will be a free service. We're going to offer every single customer an appointment for a specific day and a specific time, because we've got to whip this 80-20 rule, and we got to get that 20 and turn it into 25, and then turn it into 30, and get it heading back in the right direction. Okay, so train your staff for growth. Walk-ins, drop-off, and waiters. Get your people out of the habit of saying no. Don't ever tell a customer what you can't do. Always tell the customer what you can do. For example, no, I can't get that done for you today for the walk-in who comes in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We try to set an appointment for him at a later date and time. No, I'll be happy to get that done for you. We'll do a complete and thorough inspection on your vehicle for you. I'll call you with those results. I should have the car ready for you sometime around 1 or 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I'll give you a call. That's called a carryover. But don't tell the customer you can't do it. Tell them what you can do. And depending upon our shop productivity, we need to have about 15-20% of our schedule available for upsells and walk-ins. But there's a big assumption in that. That's assuming that you're doing upsells. A little facetious there. But you must have the capacity to sell. If you don't have capacity, you can't sell anything. So the minute your advisor perceives that his shop can't get the work out, they stop selling. They don't even mention it. As I said, they won't sell it, not that they can't sell it. Website, for those of you, which I suspect is everyone, has a website. You should have an interactive online maintenance menu on that website. Interactive. What does that mean? The customer can go in there with a mouse, click, point, year, make, model, mileage, boom, menu pops up. It tells them what the recommended maintenance is based on that mileage. And then that menu is going to pop up and give them other options they can consider that they may want to have done while they're there, such as tire rotations and alignments and so forth. Always make sure your specials that you have on your website are current, that you're continually changing them, and you don't have that same old stale special on there for the same service all the time. Build value in your dealership services. How can you set your dealership apart from your competition? What can you do that's different? Well, I I got free wireless internet. I've got a shuttle delivery service. I've got loaner cars, whatever it might be. And we got dealers today that are getting so creative. We got dealers that have hair salons, nail salons, sit-down restaurants. Got all kinds of things in dealerships today that we're doing differently in order to be separating ourselves from the competition. Aftermarket doesn't normally have those things. So you got to build value in that website as to awards. You're a President Awards winner or whatever. Get as much on there as you can. Offer, and yes, you must offer online appointment scheduling, so the customer can actually book their own appointment for a specific date and a specific time right there on your website. If you go out here to the convention in the exhibit hall, you may visit some of these vendors out here. There's a ton of them, and they'll have these online processes for you. Their research will show you that the average dollar sales value of an online RO is usually about 40% higher than one written by a service advisor. Now, what does that mean? That means the customers are doing a better job of selling themselves than we are. Point and click, point and click. I want to get that done. You just visit with one of them. They'll be happy to share that information with you. Okay? Change number 4. Let's recruit non-technical advisors. Contrary to popular belief, you do not have to be an ex-technician to be a good advisor. You do not have to have technical skills to be a good advisor. I would prefer you have 0 technical skills if you're going to be an advisor. Recruit green peas, people non-automotive that may have had some customer relations skills, bank tellers, waiters, waitresses, bartenders, ticket agents, rental car agents, all these people that are accustomed to dealing with the retail customer. No experience necessary. They have no bad habits. They've got no bad comfort zone that you've got to worry about. Very trainable people. It's easier to train, and they are much easier to train than an old pro. Utilize a personality profile to identify their sales skills, like a disc profile or something such as that. So you make sure you're hiring the right personality for the service advisor's position. And of course, we want somebody who can smile, right? Here's an idea I got from one of my dealers. He says, Don, we're having such a bad time, such a hard time recruiting people down here because the oil industry is just hiring everybody in sight. We can't get anybody to show up for these positions. He says, let's do something different. I said, okay, let's do a display ad, number 1. No liners. Let's build a display ad, okay? Number 2, we're not going to call them service advisors. I said, what do you think we ought to call them? He said, how about administrative assistants? There's lots of those out there. Works for me. Had 50 people show up the first day. 50. In a town of about 30, 40,000 people. 50 the first day. Are they administrative assistants? That's pretty much what they're doing throughout the day. So when you advertise for a service advisor, when somebody is looking at that ad, they're thinking, well, I have to have service advisor experience, which is normally what most of you put in an ad. You know, fast-growing dealer looking for a well-groomed, high sales profile person to be a service advisor here at our dealership, and no non-automotive people are going to pay any attention to that ad. Go after these people. Do not hire someone else's underachiever. You know, you get old Joe who shows up, and you know he's been writing 1.2 hours per hour in the last 8 stores that he's been in the last 10 years. And for some reason, you think it's a good idea to hire old Joe and put him out there in your service drive so he can write 1.2 for you. Do you think he's ever going to do 1.5? Heaven forbid, too. I mean, 2 hours per hour is not even on that's not even on planet Earth for that guy. Why do you want to hire somebody else's retread? Let's get somebody fresh. Let's get somebody who will do what we ask them to do and what we train them to do. Stop hiring service advisors. We just have this cycle of, forget about it. Change number 5, align your marketing plan with your capacity for growth. Again, I said we got to train our people to get ready for growth, and we have to have that capacity. So you must evaluate, measure their performance every single day. And like I mentioned earlier, you got to track that marketing ROI. The CRM companies will do that for you. They have very, very good reports where they can track the success or failure of your marketing campaign because they can track the VIN numbers of the customers that they're working with. And they can see what kind of sales you're getting off of those customers. Again, on shop productivity, don't confuse this with technician efficiency. I'm talking about how many hours are billed out on the repair order divided by the number of clock hours that the technician actually worked. That's your definition right out of the NADA 20 group program. Okay? So what's your current productivity? Where do you want it to be? Probably should be 120%. That's where you want to go. Then you got to determine, do I need more techs? How many do I have now? How many do I need to hire, and what skill level? And the most significant one there is skill level. Do I want ASE Master Certified A-level technicians? Or do I need B or C level technicians to accommodate this extra growth I'm going to get? Would you all agree, B and C level techs? Not A-level techs? Huh? Yes? Yes, lower skill level techs because you're doing lower skill level maintenance and light repairs. And most of the time I find that you're in good shape when it comes to brick and mortar, that you probably have enough bays or enough lifts, but if not, you need to do an assessment. Do I need to hire more, do I need to add more lifts into any of my flat bays? And if you've got 2 bays for every technician, you're living in the land of dinosaurs, and you need to get out of that, and you need to have a technician in every bay. There's nothing more productive than 1 tech per bay versus 2 bays per tech. We want to be tracking the number of incoming calls from this marketing campaign. How many appointments are we selling, so that we can see if it's actually working and if we're actually getting them in the shop. And for advisors and techs, we want to measure their performance every single day by performance tracking. Most of you probably have a sales board whereby you track the performance of your sales team every single day, and we want to do the exact same thing for advisors and techs. Okay? So heading towards the finish line with your advisors, you want to be able to monitor their workload, 12 to 15 customers per day. Performance metrics, 75% margin on labor, 42 to 45 on parts. You want to track their sales per repair order and their closing ratio. Closing ratio simply defined as how many additional sales do they make divided by the number of customer pay repair orders they work with per day. Okay? Just like on the showroom floor, we track salespeople. We want them to close 25, 30% of the ups. Well, in your service department, you want your advisors closing a minimum of 30%. Your top advisors will do 50, but you should be able to get a 30% closing ratio. On technicians, it's, again, I've already covered this one with you, and the number of multi-point inspections that they actually complete, not the ones that are pencil whipped by the technician where everything's marked green, but we want a completed inspection. How much gross are they producing, and their ROs. Lastly, I find that we have a cancer in fixed operations that is prevalent all across the country. The good news is that this cancer is 100% curable, but the cancer is called lack of accountability. And for some reason, we don't hold our people in fixed operations accountable the same way that we do on the showroom floor. Here would be an example. If I'm a salesperson on the showroom floor and the best I can do is sell 5 or 6 cars a month, chances are you're going to punch the eject button and blow me out of here, right? If I'm a service advisor and I'm doing 1.2 hours per RO, I got a job for life. And a 1.2 advisor is no better than a 6-car a month salesperson. If I'm a service manager or a sales manager, and my sales manager is closing 1 out of every 10 ups that hits the showroom floor, I will not be a sales manager very long in your dealership. But I can be a service director cranking out 60% one-item repair orders. Everybody's cool. I'm in my comfort zone. Why do we tolerate that? And my favorite one is the parts versus used cars. If I was a used car manager and I had $75,000 worth of parts in a car inventory been sitting out there for a year, that's not going to happen in your store. You wouldn't think of allowing that to happen in your store. But I got $75,000 sitting on a parts shelf collecting dust, and the dealer tells him, Donnie's a nice guy. He's going to sell it someday. No. We hold everybody accountable for their performance. And these 2 words, buy-in, are the 2 of the words that create this lack of accountability, employee buy-in. So if you can't become a top performer at any position in your dealership, versus an underachiever, there's only two reasons. You don't know how to be a top performer, or you don't want to. Top performers present menus to every customer. Underachievers don't. The reason underachievers don't is that they made a conscious decision, I'm not going to do this. So you have to get control of these people who don't want to buy in. Folks, why would you need anyone's buy-in to make sure that every customer is driving a safe and reliable vehicle? Why do you need someone's buy-in to make sure that we're providing our customers the highest level that we possibly can on each and every visit? Why would you need somebody's buy-in on a process that's going to increase owner retention instead of maintaining owner replacement? Why do you need their buy-in? How do you get them to come to work? Do they buy into that? Do they show up when you tell them we start every day at 8 o'clock? Are they there at 8? Yeah. Well, what happens if they don't come in at 8? What happens if they don't come in at all? Most of you are going to tell me, well, I'll fire them and I'll find somebody who will. That's a good thought to start with. That process works pretty well when it comes to policy on putting our customer first. Because, folks, none of you in this room are running a democracy. None of you dealers need votes. You're not out there campaigning to get the approval of all your employees, are you, sir? How much money have they got in the game? There's nothing democratic about managing a department. There's nothing democratic about running a dealership. So let's make the decisions. Let's get committed. Let's use some of these six simple steps up here for 2015. And if you just take one of these and implement them in your store, particularly the appointment coordinators, one of my favorites, you're going to have the best year in 2015 you've ever seen in fixed ops. Now, I'll be happy to answer any questions anyone may have. I have about 12 minutes left for questions. If anybody has a question or two, I'd be happy to answer them.